Vladimir Guerrero Jr. will be a Toronto Blue Jay for life. Let's get into it. Good morning, everyone. It is Monday, April 7th, and welcome to an emergency edition of Buds and Blue Jays, your place for all things related to the Toronto Blue Jays. Jesse Burrell, Jesse Chiricio here. And Jesse, we have big news this morning, and I'm sure every Blue Jays fan across the world already knows about this, but the Blue Jays and star first baseman Vladimir Guerrero Jr. have come to a massive contract extension. 14 years, $500 million for the superstar here. No opt-outs, no deferrals, a full no-trade clause. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. will be a Toronto Blue Jay for life. Jesse, man, first word is yours. Give me your first reaction of how you feel about this massive extension.
Let Ross cook. I can't believe he actually pulled this off. I'm calling this my Jordan flu game, as you guys can hear by my voice. But I can't miss this. This is up there with my wedding day, my daughter's birth. This is great. I've been on cloud nine all day. This has been the craziest 24 hours, not even 12 hours since this all went down. And they couldn't have done this for the opening day. That's the only downfall, but I'll take it anytime.
Jesse, I'm going to assume you have no voice because you've been screaming at the top of your lungs for thank you for the extension that has come out here. I will say, Jesse, my first reaction when I heard this last night was I took a big, deep sigh of relief and said, it's finally over. We can stop talking about this. We can stop getting the videos of Vlad going into other towns like the visit to New York where they're cheering him and wanting Vlad to be a New York Met. We don't have to deal with that. We don't have to deal with Vlad liking Photoshop pictures of him in Red Sox uniforms anymore. We don't have to worry about him wearing pinstripes for the next 9 years. Vlad is our guy. And after years and years and years of the Blue Jays missing on these free agents, the guy we wanted was always right here the whole time. As Keegan Matheson said, and I love this quote, I might even say it a few times this episode, the kid who said yes to the Toronto Blue Jays as a 16-year-old has said yes to us here again and will be a Toronto Blue Jay for life. Jesse, I couldn't be more excited. This is phenomenal.
Oh, definitely. Right when I woke up, I had to throw my Vlad jersey on because I know I'll have to get to wear it until I'm 49 years old, and even my daughter will be 19. She's only 4 right now and turning 5. Man, this is crazy to think, literally her whole life being a Jays fan, and pretty much for the most of my life, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. will be wearing the Blue Jays blue. And this is now I understand what the Braves fans got to do with Josh Schultz and their core back when they all had them for the 20 years.
Mm-hmm. And I asked you before the show here, Vlad is going to be here for 14 years. He's going to spend his whole major league career as a Toronto Blue Jay. I don't remember a superstar in Blue Jays franchise history who has spent his whole career here. Did Lloyd Mosby do it? I know Jesse Barfield did it. Tony Fernandez even had a few trips around with other teams. I can't think of a name who has spent their whole career as a Toronto Blue Jay as Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is going to do and play at a superstar level.
No, exactly. And the only name I came up with, it wasn't even a player. It was Tom Cheeks, who was a play-by-play announcer for the radio. That's the only one I could think of because any long-term Jay, we all know him playing for different organizations like Roy Halladay and going to the Phillies, or Batista going to the other teams before he retired. They never were here from day one, and anyone that was a day one and ended as a Jay, it was pretty much a short career, nothing long-term.
Yeah, let's put into, because we have so much to break down with this extension, what this means for the team this season, what this means for the team going forward, what this means for the Blue Jays and future moves they decide to make for this team. But let's try to grip into context 14 years, Jesse. You said your 4-year-old will be in college or university by the time this deal is done. 14 years is a long, long time. Jesse, do you remember when Vlad was a prospect and we played those last spring training games in Montreal and Vlad hit that home run off of Jack Flaherty, right? And this was the the first day we're like, okay, this is the Vlad era of the Toronto Blue Jays baseball. We're officially getting things started now. That was 7 years ago, Jesse. That is like the halfway point of between now and when Vladimir Guerrero Jr. will no longer be a Toronto Blue Jay. That to me was the first thing, was like, oh shit, this is a long, long time Vlad is going to be a Toronto Blue Jay. So I'm very, very curious to see how this plays out.
No, definitely. And if you think about it, he's been here 7 years, and he had that contract. That's 21 years. He's a Blue Jay.
Yeah, wow. Came up as a 19-year-old, will end as a 40-year-old. I hope he likes the city of Toronto, because he's going to get a long time here. Jesse, where do you want to go with this? Do you want to talk about the player on the field this season, long term, what this means for the future of the Blue Jays? Like, we got to touch it all, but where do you want to go first?
Oh, I definitely am just thinking what it means moving forward for this franchise, because clearly it means, yeah, if we don't make the playoffs, which obviously be a bummer, it doesn't mean our window is closed and we're not going to be selling off like we thought we would. I really think is now the next big domino is extending Bo.
Right. Okay. 2 great points there. And we do got to talk about how this means with Bo Bichette. But I do want to talk about this year. We can kind of nip it in the bud now that Vladimir Guerrero Jr. possibly getting traded at the trade deadline this year. This will not be happening. Finally, we don't have to have that conversation at any point this year, which I am relieved about. Vlad is still here. But let's talk about what this does mean for Bo, because Bo last season was kind of talking about how he always felt like he was going to test free agency. And then he kind of had a change of heart coming back with the Blue Jays. When he came back from his injury, he was saying stuff like, no, I want to play with Vlad. I want to win a World Series with Vlad. They came through the system together as a 19-year-old, all coming up here. I'd imagine that is still likely true from Bo Bichette, that he wants to do just that. John Heyman, it's John Heyman, take it for what it's worth, said that it always seems like Bo is likely to test free agency. And I wonder if now, knowing that the Blue Jays have this massive contract in with Vladimir Guerrero Jr., that we can now look to Bo Bichette and be like, hey, we're going to keep you together, keep this core together, and we are committed to winning with the two of you. And I think, honestly, with the Vlad extension in place now, I think it's now more likely we get a deal done with Bo than it was before. What do you think about that?
Oh, definitely. I believe, I don't think it'll be a 14-year deal. I feel like I always thought for Bo would be an 8 to 10-year deal between 200 and 300 million. Maybe a little bit more with the inflation and how the game is going. They maybe up to 350, but I definitely don't see it being a 400 to 500 million dollar deal. But I definitely could see even possibly by the All-Star break, maybe having that announcement that Bo is extended till, say, 2035.
Right. I've always kind of thought Bo was going to get the Willie Adames type deal that he got in free agency last year, which I think was 7 years, $131 million. Our friend Scott Belford threw out on the internet here is like, what about the Ketel Marte deal that he just signed in Arizona, which was kind of a little team friendly, but Ketel Marte, better player than Bo Bichette, so maybe they kind of go hand in hand. Bichette is quite young too, and don't forget this. As Vlad being 26, Bo Bichette is still in his mid-20s, has had some very good seasons under there. Honestly, I'd almost argue that if you want to try to get him to a long-term deal, maybe this is the time, coming off a bad season last year and then a good spring. You've seen enough, I think, so far this year to know that Bo can do it. And it wouldn't surprise me one bit if they start looking at doing that. Because remember, we've just given Vlad this massive extension. We just gave Alejandro Kirk a pretty big extension. If you believe you can win a championship with Bo Bichette, which I believe, and I'm pretty sure you believe that as well, then you should absolutely look at getting that done.
No, exactly. And then if you look at it too, then once we have Bo extended, you have pretty much up the middle extended except for Varsho, which, again, there was rumors about his extension too. So you have up the middle defense all extended for the next minimum 5 years, because you have Jimenez for the next 5 years, Kirk for the next 5 years, then Varsho and Bo, who knows?
Yeah. And this, I want to say too, with this Vlad contract extension, it makes the Andres Jimenez trade look a little better now, right? You're not going to be sitting on dead money. It makes the Anthony Santander signing look a lot better now, because you know you're going to have Vlad and Santander as your kind of core mashers for at least the next 5 seasons, which is all going to be very good. It also opens up the window of opportunity. As you mentioned earlier this episode, Jesse, it's the Blue Jays are now committed to winning for a long, long time now. You can't start selling players for prospects. You can't let these things play. Like the Blue Jays, almost now the real work does begin now, because you haven't won a championship. You haven't won a playoff game in these 7 years with Vlad. So now you got to find a way that he's going to be here. How are you going to get this done? And that's where the real work starts now for Ross Atkins. And you can really try to find your way to build a championship roster here. No,
exactly. And like, yes, we have the prospect pools coming up, like the Namalas, the Yes Savages, Tiedemann, and on and on. You can add them Rodin and Little Profito. Mm-hmm. But a lot of those pieces now, if we're wanting to commit to win, you can possibly move those to get those proven big leaguers that are like not the old ones like we did when in 15 and 16, but like the ones that are entering their primes. Like I'll throw a name just out there, like an Alec Boehm or something like who I've been mentioning for a while, but like guys like that, or a Bryson Stott, like that type of age range type of elite players, not the ones that are past their prime when we got like Tulowitzki, David Price, and all that. Mm-hmm.
And I wonder too, then, if this makes like the prospects that the Jays have that are really young. I'm not going to include Namala here because he's a different animal. But those guys that are like your 18, your 19-year-olds that are way down in the system that could have super high upside. Maybe now you let those go in a trade and you try to bring in, like, you keep your guys like your Addison Barger, your Joey Loperfido, the guys who are in AAA that are knocking on the door, because they can help your team more now while Vlad is still in his prime years and still mashing, more than those guys could help you down in the future. So I think that will be interesting. And depending on what the Blue Jays do in the draft with their 8th overall pick next year, I think it might mean now that you go more towards a college player, a guy who can get to the big leagues a little quicker, like we did with Trey Savage last year. That'll be very interesting to see how this affects the draft and the development program going forward too.
Oh, definitely. And there's definitely a college player I have my eye on, but I'll talk about that later on. When it gets closer to that day, there's a specific player I've been keeping my eye on since we got the 8th overall pick, but again, that's for a later episode. So I could definitely see that player possibly being the guy the Jays go after now.
What a tease, and you'll have to stick around as we get closer to draft season to figure out who that player is. I do want to say in terms of payroll too. So look, Vlad was in his last year of arbitration this year. He made $28 and change million. The average AAV on the 14 years, $500 million deal with the no deferrals puts Vlad down to about 30, just shy of 36 million a year, which that increase of like 7.5 million really isn't that much. That's like Jimmy Garcia money. That's Miles Straw money. That's manageable for the Blue Jays. And what this massive deal does, it doesn't stop you from making other big free agent moves in the future, which I think is key, right? Because we've seen other... Yeah, well, Kyle Tucker might be a little too much. He's having an MVP caliber start to the year, and as much as I would love that, we will see. But we've seen moves in the past. Like the Tigers took on Javi Baez. It kind of messed up their money issue. When the Angels signed Albert Pujols to their massive deal, it kind of affected them from adding more to it. That won't be the case here with Rogers, with the Toronto Blue Jays and all that stuff. And one, Jesse, this is the biggest contract the Toronto Blue Jays have ever given out. It's, I believe, in terms of present day value, it's more than the Ohtani contract. It's only just shy of the Juan Soto deal. This is breaking. This is trend setting. This is massive for the Toronto Blue Jays franchise. And I think this day, April 7th or April 6th, whenever you think it made it happen, is one of the biggest days in franchise history. And we will be coming back and looking at this day for a long time.
Oh, definitely. And like I made a joke, let's say it should be a national holiday now that Vladdy's signed.
I think it should be. It should be. And it's going to be a day we're going to look at back every single year. And we'll note this when we go talking about other free agents in the future. All right, Jesse. So my question is, did this contract save Ross Atkins' job here? Because we know Ross Atkins has been on the kind of hot seat for a while now. We're getting quite frustrated. We've talked on this show several times about maybe it's time to move on with this, but we're all pretty happy with Ross Atkins right now. You started off the show by saying, let Ross cook. Does this buy him some lease and a longer term as our general manager here?
I think he literally just saved this job. Like, I feel like if we lost Vladdy, Bo, and our window just slammed shut, I felt like both Shapiro and Ross would have been out. But now I'm like, he could get it done, and like now we have our cornerstone player that can entice free agents to show that they're committed. So like they really showed that he can get the job done, and I'm going to use the good old Josh Snyder line. I got to tip my cap to Ross Atkins on this.
I will tip my cap as well. Hat tips are great in this scenario compared to some of the other ones. I will say, Jesse, one thing that's caught my attention, and I'm probably going to be in the minority here, but when Vlad set his contract agreement to the first day of pitchers and catchers report, told the Toronto Blue Jays to come out with their best offer. We don't know exactly what the offers was, but there was some reporting out there that the Blue Jays came in at about 450 or so million. Vlad wanted the 500 million here. The Blue Jays kind of got there, but it was heavily deferred. There were some opt-outs in there, et cetera, et cetera. I wonder if now that just a week or 10 games into the season, the Blue Jays have met Vlad and have given him that $500 million deal. If this shows other free agents or other agents in the future that when they say, Blue Jays, come with us with your best deal, that is not actually your best deal, and that the agents can pry more out of this. Are you worried about that at all, or am I making something out of nothing here?
I see where you're coming from, but I'm not too worried about it.
Yeah.
But it just, the one thing I've been thinking too, did Vlad sign this deal because of how slow of a start he's having in these first 10 games, only having 4 RBIs, saying 250? Is like, was he seeing the dollar signs go out the window with how he's performing right now?
It's possible. I don't think you change much after just 10 games into the season. Remember, Vlad only had 5 home runs through the month of May last year, still ended up on a 30 home run pace. And he's still, for what it's worth, has been getting his hits. He's just been a lot of singles. We did talk about on our episode last night, though, how Vlad was chasing a lot more pitches than he normally does. You know, he didn't seem like he was kind of locked in yet. And it could be very much a situation where, yeah, his agent was thinking about it. You know, he's nervous. He doesn't know if he's going to be here long term or not, right? He's got his best friend Juan Soto in the outfield across from him talking about, hey, you know, maybe sprinkling something in there. Maybe you could come join the Mets, and who knows? But now that is all taken care of, it's got to be, not only is it a big sigh of relief from us, it's got to be a big sigh of relief for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. And now he can really turn his focus onto just playing on the field. The only thing I'm concerned about here, Jesse, is that you see this sometimes after players sign a massive extension, is that they feel so much pressure now to live up to the extension that it doesn't work right away. Think Francisco Lindor, his first year in with the Mets. I know George Springer's first year with the Toronto Blue Jays. Yeah, there was injuries there, but it wasn't so great. Like, we've seen this as a pass. So now I'm kind of worried that he feels the pressure just a little bit more. And we know Vlad hasn't always lived up to the highest pressure moments in the past. So that might be something worth watching going forward.
Oh, definitely. Like, it'd be interesting to see how he actually reacts to now having that contract locked in and all that. And it's definitely something to watch too, moving forward for the next 14 years.
Mm-hmm. Now, are you concerned at all, Jesse, about how this contract will look 10 years from now, 11 years from now? Because let's be honest here, Vlad is a big-bodied first baseman. Historically, these big-bodied first basemen don't necessarily age too well, and he really only has 2 MVP-ish level seasons in his 7-year career so far. Does that worry you at all, or do you think that's so far down the line we don't have to worry about it?
No, it's definitely something that we'll have to monitor right away, because again, prime example, a different organization, different circumstances, but look at Prince Fielder, what happened with him. Yes, he had neck issues, guys like that. Even Albert Pujols, he was a bigger guy, wasn't the same. Cecil, the only big body first baseman, but he was primarily a DH. I would say is David Ortiz, and that's why he had the longer career. It's because he was a DH primarily.
Yeah, and this could be the case in 2037. Vlad becomes a full-time designated hitter, and I'm sure, that's fine. If you look at a lot of the big first basemen, you mentioned a few of them there. Miguel Cabrera is another one. Joey Votto is another one. These guys, it was usually around their age 33, 34 season when they really kind of fell off a cliff. So let's say that precedent remains true, and it is about the age 34 when the Vlad's numbers start to decline a little bit. You're still getting 7-ish seasons of what should be an above average to elite offensive talent here. And that is your window right now. You worry about the other 7 years later, push that aside. You'll deal with that when that time comes, because you kind of have to live with that in order to get Vlad here for the next 7 years. So you'll deal with that then. we have now opened up our window that we thought could be closing this year to now about roughly the next 7 seasons. That is our time. If we're going to win a World Series with Vlad here, it's got to be in these next 7 years.
No, 100%. So that, like, 7 years, again, if I go in my terms, that'll be when I'm pretty much, I'm in my 40s. Like, I will be 40, I think 41 if I did the math right, like, off the top of 41, 42. If you think of a normal life, that's a long time, but look how fast these 7 years with Vladdy has gone by already since he debuted in 2019.
It's true. And like the Jays haven't had much to show for it, which has been the biggest gripe around the Toronto Blue Jays fans. So now, I said earlier, the real work starts now for the Toronto Blue Jays. And yes, we got a guy to take our money, which is absolutely phenomenal here. Another thing I've liked a lot about this Vlad extension is now this guarantees us, like, Vlad's going to be in the level of excellence one day. If Vlad has the Hall of Fame career that we think he could have, he's going to go in wearing a Toronto Blue Jays cap. It is going to be phenomenal. Like, I can't believe this. This has been a long time that the Blue Jays have finally had our guy that we can root for, a guy that chose us over and over and over again. And yes, I can give you 500 million reasons why he did that. But the fact that he wanted to pick here when so many other players across free agency didn't want to pick the Toronto Blue Jays, Vlad decided he did. I will say, Jesse, I still think the best time to do this was 5 years ago, right? If you had Vlad under contract, even if you signed him in October, it would have made recruiting free agents here this offseason so much easier. But better late than never. I'm glad it's happened. And you can wear your Vladimir Guerrero Jr. number 27 Blue Jays jersey that you and I are both wearing right now for the next 14 seasons. And I am beyond excited for that.
Oh, I'm through the roof. And, like, again, once this is done, our record books for offensive, all you'll see is Vladimir Guerrero Jr.'s name. Maybe not stolen bases, but pretty much every other one.
Mm-hmm. And now it's time. Now we go. Now it's time to get it on the field and shut up and put up. Jesse, I love that this deal happened too as the Blue Jays are about to go to Fenway Park and play the Boston Red Sox, because the Red Sox have been trying to shop Tristan Casas all summer. They've been looking for a spot. There's been a lot of Red Sox rumors to get Vladimir Guerrero Jr. There's no doubt in our mind Vladdy's hitting his first home run of the season tonight, right?
Oh, it's going to be a moon bomb. Like, it's going to be one of those, like, the one he had when I was at the Fenway last year. Like, I literally feel like, on top of, like, completely aside note, all those trash-talking Yankee fans, Red Sox fans, Mets fans, all the people saying he's coming to their team, they can go where the sun don't shine and
they can
take
go
all
suck
those.
It is what we want to say.
Yeah. I will go F themselves and, like, say where you are. And, like, he's ours. And for those Red Sox, yeah, your future big three really turned out nowhere. All you got is Devers. Soto, Vladdy, and Devers never going to happen unless it's the All-Star game or WBC.
Sure. This is phenomenal, though. I'm beyond excited, Jesse. I haven't felt a high like this being a baseball fan of a team, God, since probably the 2015 season. And I know it's done nothing. It's been Rogers giving out a bunch of money. But the fact that we know and we have that peace of mind now that Vlad's going to be here for a long time, I feel such relief and such joy. This is going to be great. And, Blue Jays fans everywhere, by the way, I want you all to take note here. In 10 years from now, when Vlad is only having like a 110 WRC plus and we're all worried about, like, come on, we need more from Vladimir Guerrero Jr., I want everybody to remember how you feel today. How you feel when this deal is signed. Because right now, all of us across Blue Jays fandom think this is worth that money. This is what we want. We get this guy here for a long time. So I want you to remember how you feel today when we look back in 10 years from now. Because, Jesse, I know damn well you and I are going to have talks on this podcast about we need more from Vladimir Guerrero Jr. He needs to be better. He needs to be the superstar of this team. Just remember how we feel today, and that will help ease the pain a little bit.
Exactly. And if you think about the money, too, in 10 years, this is going to be a bargain paying this much for a generational player, for a franchise player. Like, 36.7 million in 10 years. That would be like almost an entry level deal with how inflation is.
Because remember when Bryce Harper signed his massive deal, who was probably a similar young free agent, came in there. That deal looks like a bargain right now. Even Manny Machado, who's not as good as Bryce Harper, still doesn't look too bad. And if you want to get real deep into the numbers here, Jesse, like There's probably a lockout. There's going to be more labor talks coming in the next few seasons. How that affects the CBA, we might see some changes. So we can't predict what's going to happen in that next CBA. Maybe this contract looks significantly better that we got him under long-term between now and then. Who knows? But it's hard aside from Vlad just not performing on the field. It's really hard to look at this deal and see it not working out for us team going forward.
No, exactly. Like all I can see is like even kids not even like born yet wearing those Vlad's jerseys with their like with their parents who are like kids right now who are just becoming fan of the game, and will say I grew up watching Vladdy. Even my daughter, well, like I said, will be 19 when this contract's up. She grew up with Vladdy being a Blue Jay.
Yep.
And I think that's the coolest thing. Like you guys mentioned the Braves. That's how the Braves fans from the 90s and 2000s, they grew up with their players. Now we get to do that with Vlad.
Right. And think about, Jesse, we're in our early to mid 30s here. Like our Blue Jays we got to watch growing up. I think Roy Halladay was the big one, right? Like you saw a bit of Carlos Delgado. We saw a little bit of Vernon Wells, but both of them just left. We couldn't really grip our hands into that guy. Vlad is now that guy for a lot of people. He'll be like Mr. Blue Jay. I almost want to call him for a long time. And that is phenomenal.
No, exactly. Like, again, like other players too, like for like the old guys around our age. You had Joe Carter growing up with Robbie Alomar, John Oler, those type of players from the 92, 93 World Series team. We got to watch them for a while. But again, we haven't had our guy in God, who knows how long.
Yeah, this is absolutely excellent, Jesse. I am buzzing. I am riding a high. Was there any other notes you wanted to take from this? We've covered the extension. We've covered his play this field. We've covered how it's going to look long-term for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Is there anything else you wanted to throw out here about the Vlad extension?
I think we've named it all. Like again, I'm on cloud nine. Like I said, it's up there with my wedding day, the birth of my daughter. Like this is like this is an early birthday gift. Like my birthday's the end of this month. Like I'll take this as a gift.
Yeah, that's right, and you got it, which is absolutely great.
And also my bold prediction, a few games late, but at least I got that kind of right.
And you did. And honestly, I can't believe the Blue Jays absolutely did this. So it'll be great. And think our next homestand, by the way, I just bought tickets to see Vlad's first game back in Toronto, April 14th against Atlanta. Alex Anthopoulos will be, that's his team, who's the guy who signed Vlad when he was 16. He will be there. Well, I don't know if he travels with the team, but his team will be there. And that'll all come full circle. We need to give Vlad the loudest ovation we've ever given a player ever when he comes back, because he's committed to us. He chose us over everybody else, and he should absolutely be rewarded for that.
Oh, exactly. And now every game is Bladder days are for the boys and girls. Like every game is Bladder Day now for the next 14 years.
I love that. All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining in this emergency episode for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Jesse's excited. I'm excited. Blue Jays fans everywhere are absolutely excited. 14 more seasons for number 27 with the Toronto Blue Jays. For Jesse Tricio, I'm Jesse Burrell. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We will be back on Thursday evening to recap the Red Sox series here. We've got a good friend, Scott Belford from the Walk-Off, will be joining us on that episode, so we will be back to talk about that. And I'm sure he'll have a lot to say about Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and the massive extension. Oh, boy, I can't wait. But today, a great day for the Toronto Blue Jays. Until then, let's go Jays.
Thanks, guys.
Just gotta find my damn video here. Technical difficulties.
There we go.